I proposed to my girlfriend of 6 years last month. She obviously said yes, and we've been working on wedding details. For example, save the dates, invitations, venue, caterer, etc. since. We got to talking about who we would want in our wedding because she wanted to do a special proposal to her side of the wedding court, and she said she wanted to have her best friend since childhood be her maid of honor. The thing is, her childhood best friend is a guy. They lived on the same street when they were kids and have been friends since. My fiancé and I met in college, and her friend was there too, so I've known him for as long as I've known her. At first, I didn't really like him because he was always hanging around her, but after she and I started dating, and I was forced to be around him more, I kinda started to tolerate him. He and my fiancé saw each other a lot, but he and I have never really hung out one-on-one before. One time when we were left alone together, he tried to get all tough and did the "if you ever break her heart, I swear" corny threat talk. He's a small dude, so it made me laugh more than intimidate me. After that, I got the feeling this was a situation where he liked her, but she didn't know. I asked my fiancé if she and him ever had feelings for each other, and she said no, then let me know he was gay. I'm not homophobic or anything, so it's not like I don't want him in the wedding because of that. It's just that I think it would be better if her side of the party was all girls. She and him already did everything together. Not including him in our wedding wouldn't hurt their friendship. I told her that, and she got defensive, saying that if I could have a girl on my side of the party, the girl being my older sister who practically raised me, she could have a guy. I said that it was a different circumstance, and that I wouldn't allow her best friend to be her man of honor. She got really mad and said it was her wedding too, then stormed out. I got a text from her sister a few hours later saying she had gone to her parents' house and told them what I had said. They thought I was being an asshole because I never liked her friend and am threatened by him. I have tried to talk to my fiancé since she left, but she hasn't returned my calls or texts. I really love her and I don't want to lose her. I just don't want her best friend to be a part of our day. Am I the a-hole? Edit. It's come to my attention in a previous comment I made. I have created the world's thinnest argument. I said that my fiancé was unwilling to compromise on things such as the groomsmen's neck pieces and blazers, and as such, I was in the right to be unwilling to compromise about her best friend. I stated in a few other posts that there were other things she didn't want to compromise on, and someone suggested I make a list, so here it is. 1. When we were deciding our wedding date and location, she wanted to do it in spring in an open field. I wasn't on board with this as I have terrible allergies and spring is when it's at its worst. She shot down any alternative I gave her, alternatives being things done closer to summer or in summer, and said it was spring or nothing. So we went with spring too, instead of going with a DJ like I suggested, who could play a mix of her favorite, my favorite, and general upbeat dance music. She said that she really wanted a live band that specialized in her favorite genre. I asked if we could just give the DJ a longer list of her songs in her favorite genre and tell him to pick from the list often, but she said no, and that a live band was going to be better. So we went with the band 3. In my culture, there are a few traditional wedding ceremonies that I wanted us to partake in. Some included a kind of parade that leads the groom and his family to the bride's house where they present her and her family gifts, a haircutting ceremony. I made sure to tell her her actual hair would not be cut. And finally, a knot-tying ceremony where the guests wish us a long, happy marriage. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with these ceremonies and said they would be too much time and effort, since it would be like having 2 weddings. I tried fighting for these more than the others, but she was firm on doing things traditionally. 4. She wanted the groomsmen to wear bow ties and blazers, even though I wanted the necktie and no blazer look. 5. She changed the color scheme from the originally agreed upon black, gold, maroon, and forest green to pink, or I think it was rose, yellow, white, and pastel blue, because the decorations would look better in the field. When I said we already printed invitations with the previous colors on them, she said we could throw those out and get reprints. Top comments, somebody said, "You're the a-hole." It's obvious that you have a huge chip on your shoulder about your fiancé's best friend just because he's a guy. So now you're using this girls-only thing to get him out of the way. Also, girls, you're not in high school going to prom. You're getting married. They're women. You're sexist and jealous and seem way too immature to be getting married. I hope she sees you for what you are and gets away from you. Original poster replied, the difference is, I'd be having a legitimate family in my party. Somebody who, like I said, has practically raised me and has been there for me since birth, who I want by my side. I know you can argue that her and her best friend are technically family, with how long they've known each other, but that doesn't actually make them family. Another commenter said, I really love her, and I don't want to lose her. I just don't want her best friend to be a part of our day. You only get to say that if her best friend has done something bad, like stole money from you, or took a crap in the middle of the floor at the engagement party. You are being unreasonable. Your only reason for not wanting him there is that he's a guy and you are jealous. That's not a good enough reason, especially when you are having a woman at your wedding party. You are going to lose her because you want her to be unhappy and have someone she loves excluded from her wedding for selfish reasons. You're the a-hole. Original poster replied, why would I be jealous of him? I'm the one she came home to every night and the one she agreed to marry. The woman I'm having in my party is my biological sister, someone who I share a natural deep bond with. It's not like I said he can't come to the wedding period. Somebody said I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt, but the more I read, the more confident I became of my opinion. You're the a-hole. No matter how I read this, you come off as someone threatened by the fact that your fiancé has a close, lifelong friendship with a man who has never had romantic feelings for her, gay or not, who, by your own admission, you don't even find physically threatening. So what is there to be threatened by? Update. My wedding may be off. Fiancé posts. 1 day later, I was recently engaged to my fiancé after 6 years together. We got into a fight a couple of days ago because he wouldn't let me ask my guy best friend, who I've known since we were kids, to be my man of honor. I ended up walking out and went to stay with my parents for a few days. I told them what happened, and they agreed that he was way out of line. I went back earlier today, after I thought he had enough time to calm down, and when I came home, he looked glad to see me. He apologized for stepping out of line, and I said it was fine, and that we still had time to ask my best friend to be at the wedding. He kind of looked down, then said that we should call everything off. This really surprised me, and I immediately said no. He then admitted that while I was gone, he posted to Reddit about what had happened, and that even though he was deemed the controlling butthole, he also realized that I was one, because I had basically hijacked the wedding planning. I asked how he could think that, and he pointed out how I chose to have the wedding in spring, even though that's a bad time for him, and that I changed up the wedding color scheme and what his groomsmen would be wearing without talking with him first. I said that those were practically minor things, and we didn't have to call off the wedding for it. Then he said, I was insensitive for rejecting his culture's traditional wedding ceremonies and didn't even consider doing them. He had brought to my attention some traditional ceremonies people do at weddings in his culture, and while I appreciated him bringing it up to me, I decided against doing it because it wouldn't fit the vibe of the traditional wedding I wanted. I told him I only wanted to do a traditional American wedding and that he already agreed with me that that's what we were doing. Then he said that me having my guy best friend be my best man was untraditional. I pointed out I let him have his sister be part of his wedding party because he wanted some part of his family included, and that since he was breaking the tradition, so could I. He got really sad and looked like he was about to cry and said that me breaking the tradition was like a slap in the face after I rejected his traditions and that I just didn't respect his culture at all. That is not the case at all. I greatly respect his culture. I told him I understood how mean it sounded, but it's my wedding too, so I get a say in what we do. He kind of laughed and got up and said he wanted to take a break and left. I don't know what to do. I don't want to call off the wedding at all. I tried to find his Reddit post, but I think he was using a throwaway. Though granted, I am too. I love him so much, and I want to be with him for the rest of our lives. I don't know how we'll get through this. Top. Comments. Commenter. 1. Sounds like you are controlling, and you brushed off his complaints as no big deal. If the date, groomsman outfit, and color scheme are minor details, then they shouldn't have been changed. Disregarding his family traditions is a major detail, and if you are willing to disregard them for a wedding, how does he know you won't for other events? The wedding is one day. If you don't let him have a say in that, he's right to take a break and reconsider. Commenter 2. I guess he thinks now that it's his wedding too, so he should get a say in what they do. How delulu of him. Bride, I understand where you're coming from. I'll be honest and tell you that I haven't celebrated a lot of his cultural events besides New Year's. He's Cambodian, and they celebrate their New Year's in April, I believe. He and his family had a falling out after he started dating me. His family didn't approve of a foreigner, and only recently have they reconnected. His sister thought it was different. She didn't care that I was American, and she stuck by his side as his only family member. I guess I disregarded the traditions in the first place because he never immersed me in his culture enough, because he kind of cut ties with that side of himself. I was uncomfortable with the idea of being surrounded by his family that doesn't particularly like me during the ceremonies, as both his parents and my parents would be involved. I didn't want to feel like an outsider on our wedding day. Commenter 3. He doesn't want to feel like an outsider at his wedding either. You're pretty selfish to disregard what he wants as it's his wedding too. You don't get to make all the decisions, then say it's minor. If it's so minor, what's the problem with having them his way for his side of the wedding party? The wedding and marriage is for two people, not just for the bride who has main character syndrome. Have you made the effort with his parents to know them, etc.? This could have been your chance to find out about his culture and family, but you chose not to. Is there such a thing as a traditional American wedding when a white dress was made popular by Queen Victoria, an English queen? You sound controlling and petty, and now you get to live with the consequences of being demanding and brushing off his wants for the wedding. Commenter 4. When I first started reading this, I was on your side, and by the end, not at all. It seems to me like he tried to veto your ideas the same way you vetoed his. Honest question. Why should he compromise his traditional values if you won't compromise your non-traditional ones? Commenter 5. I think your ex is right. You haven't considered his preferences, and in fact you minimize his requests, calling them practically minor and not respecting his cultural traditions. It sounds like you're more interested in a wedding than an actual relationship and marriage. Original poster replied, Of course I'm interested in the wedding. I've been dreaming of my own since I was a child, but I don't value it more than I value my relationship with him. We didn't get that far into the planning, but for our honeymoon, I was going to suggest going somewhere he and I have always talked about going to. We would have eventually gotten to a place where more of his ideas would be accepted. Commenter 6. Babes, you literally choose your wedding over your fiancé. You broke up because of plans for the wedding. You broke up because you couldn't compromise anything you wanted for anything he wanted. You chose the wedding over the marriage. Commenter 7. I read his post yesterday and yours today. You both suck. I think he wouldn't have put up the stink about your male best friend being in your party if you hadn't been so controlling. But that's moot because you're incredibly controlling and don't understand, care. You are selfish and self-centered. You seem to think only your tastes and desires matter for your wedding, forgetting that your groom is a person and not just a prop at your wedding. The fact that you even say, let him include his sister, is grounds to break up with you in my opinion. Neither of you are mature enough to marry from the little bit you have each written. In both of your posts, you both sound fairly unpleasant to be around, but you are definitely the harsher of the two. He's a whiner, and you are Attila the Hun. Both of you need to grow up and learn what's actually important in life. How to grow together. Don't get married, mature first. New update. 2 weeks later. It's been 2 weeks since I posted about my wedding situation. I apologize for not answering very many of your comments on the first post. The post was intended to just talk about the situation, but it quickly turned into a mini "Am I the whole" discussion, which was absolutely the farthest thing that I wanted to happen. Due to the stress and severity of everything, I had to unplug. The comments and private messages were getting to me, and the messages from friends and family who caught word of the situation became overwhelming. That being said, I got around to reading the comments after a week or so, but didn't have the effort to say anything until now. A lot of you said I was controlling, manipulative, selfish, and racist. I can understand being called the first three, but racist genuinely hurts. I didn't realize my actions came across as racist, but I see now how that could be assumed of me. I don't know what to say to prove that I'm not racist, but I know that even if I did, it probably wouldn't change any minds. I've begun to research more on the wedding ceremonies and just Cambodian culture as a whole, something I realize I should have done years ago. I promise you that the decisions I made and the unfortunately vetoed decisions from my boyfriend all came from a place that thought it was going to be best for both of us. But like a lot of you said, it was still wrong of me to completely dismiss him and his ideas. I admit I was being stubborn about a lot of things that would have been easy to compromise on. I guess I was looking at everything through rose-tinted glasses and thought that everything would just fall into place in my favor because I wanted it to. I should have heard him out more and taken his words seriously. Additionally, a few of you called me and my fiancé out for being rage baiters and even being the same person just using different accounts. I can see how that would seem like the case, since I made this account a day after his throwaway was deleted, but I promise it was just a coincidence. I created a throwaway since my main account has content that can be traced to my other socials, and I didn't want anyone harassing me in my direct messages or other comment sections. I think someone also brought up the fact that this account is linked to another one that has posts about being divorced. I'm not sure what that's about. I read the "Am I the a-hole" post that he created, and, if I can be honest, I thought it was terribly done. He made his initial post about my best friend and how he wasn't comfortable with him being in the wedding, indicating that even on a minuscule level, he was uncomfortable with my friend. In the 6 years they've known each other, he has never once voiced or shown any discomfort for him. I don't know if he was using him as a scapegoat or what. His comments started to change the tune of the post, and it started to become a "I'm not comfortable with the guy best friend" versus "actually, I'm being taken advantage of" type of thing. It was all so weirdly done, and his comments seemed rude and argumentative. People were judging him based on the initial question as the forum intended, but then he started to tell the rest of the story to try and gain favor or something. But I digress. Moving on to the actual update, my boyfriend and I had a talk a few days ago. He was home when I came back from work, and it looked like he was packing some of his stuff. I asked if this meant that we were officially over, and he said he didn't know. I asked if we could talk about it, and he said sure. I apologized to him for how I was acting and that I shouldn't have been so controlling with the planning. I also apologized for rejecting his culture and said that I didn't do it with malice. He asked why I really rejected the ceremonies, and I told him how I wasn't comfortable with his parents since there was still tension between us. He explained that they were trying to be okay with me, but what I did just made it harder. I told him I read his post and asked if he really didn't feel comfortable around my best friend. He was kind of iffy on that, saying yes and no before saying he didn't mind him as a person, but he was still someone he didn't know. He offered to apologize to him since he figured I told him about what he said when I left my parents' house, which I did, and I said I would appreciate that. We got quiet, and I asked again if he wanted to officially break up. He said he wanted to cancel the wedding, but that he didn't want to break up permanently yet. I felt the same way, so we talked some more and eventually agreed to go back to dating. This may not be the outcome a lot of you wanted, since it seemed like you were all rooting for him to kick me to the curb, but I still love him, and he still loves me. We're canceling all of the wedding plans and looking into couples counseling. And as a promise to each other that we're going to change, he's going to make an effort in befriending my best friend, and I'm going to be seeing his family more and participating in observing more cultural events. This is the last post I will make from this account. I just want to move forward and rebuild with him.